Back in early 2020, the Tested team and I flew to New Zealand to visit our friends at Wētā Workshop as they embarked on their most ambitious project yet. A sprawling exhibition celebrating the creative genius and the deep problem solving that Wētā Workshop and Richard Taylor have made world famous. That exhibition, now called Wētā Workshop Unleashed, is open for public display in Auckland, New Zealand, and I cannot wait to see it in person. But until then, let's go back and visit me and the Tested team in early 2020. Every artisan in special effects, every shop develops a library of tips and tricks and techniques for making the fantastical real, and Wētā is, of course, no exception. They might have the largest arsenal in the world in this department, and their fearless leader, Richard Taylor, is about to show me how they take a simple material like foam polystyrene and turn it into rocks, realistic scale rocks. Let's get to learning. Richard, what's entailed with the rock carving?
Well, it's so dependent on the style of rock that you want to achieve.
Right.
We actually would never use this technique anymore because as we entered Lord of the Rings, we put that aside. But this is really hard for a young person with no access to molding materials to do.
Sure.
So we felt it was very important that we actually shared how to do pretty cool rock that you could do at home with the disposable materials that you were talking about. So we thought it would be fun to actually have you and I actually do a bit of poly carving, showing the different tools that could be used, from a hot wire, battery-powered chainsaw, to a Stanley knife, etc., etc. And we might have a play around with that and see if we get anything worthy of good results.
Sounds heavy.
We're going to do it in the spray booth over there so we can control the mess a little bit. And Morna can be the health and safety officer and keep an eye on us and make sure we don't chop each other's legs off. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Let's see how it goes. Excellent.
Cool. We'll lead on. Let's go.
Cool.
So the rock carving techniques of polystyrene carving is as old school as it gets.
And we have just a single giant block of polystyrene. I have some idea about how to turn this into rock, but these are your guys' main tools?
Yeah, absolutely. Electric chainsaw for chonking out shapes. The hot wire, which may look like something that you can't get at home, but it's easy to build out of a piece of nichrome wire and a battery.
So you just run a current through this, it gets hot and...
Absolutely, and we can make it 3-4 meters long, and that's how we might cut something very, very large.
It looks
but
very
I've
gruesome.
shortened this to show you one of the techniques we use. Shish kebab sticks are critical for pinning it all together.
Engineering.
And of course, the utility knife, the snap knives. These are we call this weapon of choice. Because this is the most dangerous thing in our company. More people have gone to the medical centre because of these than anything else.
It's more of my stitches are from these.
Yeah, and then this is expanding urethane foam. It's used in the house building industry. It's commonly available at hardware stores. We call it chum for some reason, but it's a beautiful material for gluing things together and filling things.
And a regular
trusty handsaw.
Aside from the expanding foam, everything here can be bought pretty much in every hardware store in the world, except for maybe nichrome wire and the expanding foam. It's very reasonable, regular kind of tool.
Yeah, well, it's something that young people could easily get into at home. And, you know, hobbyists are doing railway layouts, landscapes for doll houses exactly in this technique.
All right.
So we'll have a crack.
Let's get started.
We'll take a few of these things off.
All right.
And we'll throw a big block up here. So one of the things that I'm going to do is initially use the hot wire to actually do some shaping into, into the surface of the rock. So I've made this so I can operate it with just 2 hands. Yeah, and Morna will turn it on for me when I call out, so she can turn it off if the hot wire is getting too hot. So you can turn it on, Morna. And I'm just thinking that I want to start creating a strata through the rock. Thank you. We'd normally be wearing a mask, but so we can talk for this very short moment in time. Okay, and we can turn it off again. And you can see how beautifully that has actually created this sense of curvature and rock face. If I'm needing to save on my money, I'll actually flip that over and use it again. And in fact, what I'll actually do now is I will shish kebab that together. So that's where these guys come in useful. So I pin it together.
give it a little bit of stable. Oop, I've come all the way through.
Yeah, make sure they don't come through, otherwise I'll catch them with the chainsaw. Okay, and now Morna will turn that back on again, and I'll just tickle up this little tiny connector here, so.
Oh.
I might get a little tiny bit more there.
Could I have a go with the hot
Yeah,
knife?
here we go. I'll pass that on to you.
Oh, I can feel it vibrating. Oh, no matter how many times I've done it, I never get tired of the hot knife. It's always like a magic trick.
Oh, I know, the negative pieces are more beautiful than the actual rock. Great, and now we can start carving it.
All right.
It always has like an ice-like look to it, no?
Oh,
does.
it's incredible for making ice floats. Really, really simple. I'll just do a little bit more for a moment.
Yeah.
Just turn it on again, Morna.
Yeah.
If you actually get a bit more complex, okay, and go with the cutting pattern, you can actually get the sense of ice shapes in it quite nicely. Okay, turning it off. You can see you start to get these long vertical shapes.
Wow.
Then the chainsaw, we don't use so much for cutting, we actually use it for brushing.
Brushing?
I'll show you. So what we use this for is not so much cutting, but actually, oh wow, brushing with the tip.
Within computer security, it's often stated that humans are terrible at generating random numbers. But within sculpting, it's axiomatic that we are poor at generating what look like random shapes, and multiple tools yield a much more variegated kind of surface.
And interestingly, what I try and do when I carve rock is not think about carving rock.
Right.
It's very weird. Because rock has come to be through an incredibly organic process of seismic movement, the wind and rain hammering away at it, there's no rhyme or reason to it. You have strata that is sort of inherent in the rock. Mm-hmm. But I like to just, as you saw there, drift the chainsaw and almost let the rotation of the blade pull it in the directions I want to go in.
So you're thinking of it almost more like a graphic problem of just like you're waiting until the thing feels.
That's exactly right. And you give yourself enough material that you can graphically solve the rock forms. Oh. And you know, today we let the rock speak for itself because we use cast rock primarily. But even when you're using cast rock, you still have to piece it together. Mm-hmm. And how you jigsaw it together ultimately speaks to the style, the essence, the way that the rock will look. Yeah. And it's very, very easy with rock to make it look like wallpaper, that it's just a continual boring pattern. But if you actually look at rock, especially large scale surfaces of rock, it's incredibly unique. And the differences in it are beautiful.
All right, I'm going to try with a little bit.
Yeah, please.
So much fun.
And then, of course, slowing down a bit, we swap to these things. Yeah. And these start to let us shape our rock with a bit more finesse. Mm-hmm. And these are really beautiful. These are getting a bit sort of gnarly at the moment, but when they're new, you can actually get really nice deep shapes. And I try and think about where the weather is having an impact, and rivulets of water might be flowing down, and so on and so on. Amorphic globular shape. Okay, and then of course we swapped to these, and I did have
I got
two.
the other
You've
one
got your
here.
one. And the beauty of these is that they have a flex in the blade,
Right.
and I'd absolutely love to know
You
about
set
them.
this on the most dangerous level.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
And the trick here is to not plunge it into your own body, which is a surprisingly easy thing to do. And then we start going into those shapes we've created and thinking about the ledges and the hard surfaces. We quite often will tear the poly. So you put a cut in, but then you flick it out, giving you the effect of the tearing of the poly, which is really lovely. So ultimately, we're using any tool that gives you an advantage. Angle grinders with sanding discs, wire brushes, anything that might take the material away in an interesting manner. We even make our own angle grinding discs where we might glue rocks to a disc.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then use that. Welding big bolt stubs off the end of a angle grinder disc.
At Industrial Light and Magic, Lauren Peterson used to take carborundum and coat a big piece of urethane foam with PVA glue and sprinkle carborundum on it and use it as a custom burr.
Excellent. Yep. Yeah. So something that we use a little bit is acetone, and it creates a pitting in the rock that replicates the natural world that you may not.
And it's a natural solvent for styrene.
Oh yeah, it is.
Styrene
So if I just
dissolves.
put a little bit of, you can actually see it dissolving here.
It's like alien blood.
Yeah, so you're going to put it on very lightly, but it starts to put in the pitting into the rock that is so prevalent in real rock. So put on too much and it will eat right through, of course. And we've seen this in many movies where you give the illusion that the floor of a spaceship is rotting out, but of course what they've used is they've used polystyrene and acetone, and
Oh, yeah. It really starts to take away those marks that feel like you weren't getting random enough.
So next, how we join our pieces together
Right.
is with this material. Got to so we'll extract these just till they're free of the surface. Let's put down our mass again for this.
All right.
All right, so we want to attach this to
Yeah,
this.
right there. So it won't need much. So turn it on.
Wow!
Okay, we'll slap that down. Really squash it down.
Thank you.
And one trick with this is the more you spike it in angles,
Yeah.
The
more
less
it
it
will
will
hold,
rise.
otherwise it just slides straight up.
Gotcha. This is fabulous.
Nice.
That'll do.
See,
Lovely.
in this industry,
Every day is craft day.
Yeah, so in about 6 hours, this will go it will go hard, and then you can carve back into it, etc., etc.
And it has roughly the same kind of carving texture
Yes,
as the
it
poly.
does. It's a little bit more aerated, but it's a fantastic way to quickly join things. It requires some patience because, in fact, I'll show you. Let's say we weren't happy with that.
Yeah.
I might then go and fill that with a little bit of this product. You see, it's very aggressive, quite hard to. So in an hour or so, I'd be able to then tool that back to the surface of this.
I see. Yeah.
I tell you what we'll do now. I'll bring in a piece of the cast rock that we're using as well. So let's
take a look.
Yeah, let's slide this backwards a little bit.
Will this one do?
Yeah, that's perfect. A small sample you organised earlier. Yep. See, that fireproof stuff's dense, eh? So, in the case of the real rock that we are using, this also knifes really, really beautifully. And we will actually cut it along its primary strata lines so that we don't end up with straight lines through areas like this. Because if we cut through here, then we're trying to recreate that.
Right, right.
So we try and find its natural break line.
Like there.
And well, then that's where we might go in with it. The beauty of these these cheaper swords is that you actually can flex the blade beautifully and plunge cut them.
Line. Yeah.
You see the warpage that I'm actually able to get in the blade. So, eventually you get deep enough that you can actually just break it. They had a shish kebab stuck somewhere in there. Held it right over the edge here. Is there something? Oh, there's something in the back of it. That's what it is.
There we are. Oh, well, there's your problem.
Yeah, someone's put a 3-for-1 in. And then you can see, by carving this edge, I'll actually do it, eh? So, I'll get the chainsaw again. This time, let's put this on.
Oh, right.
Because it's urethane dust. So you're happy to hold that for me, eh?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So what we're trying to do there is, of course, cut a V into it. So once you start to bring the other piece of rock up,
Right.
and you cut that back in the same V, you can start to change the angle on it.
And because you cut it on the strata, it's going to look
It
much
fits
more
back
naturalistic.
together again. So I would then visualize it and start to nibble out its corresponding shape. So where we might spend many, many hours carving here and never really capture the true essence of rock.
And that multiple scale
Yeah.
thing that this has is just
Beautiful,
so hard
isn't
to
it?
get.
So
is there, because you've spent so many decades with this piece of stone, is there a piece in the piece I can see here? Is there part of it you recognize? Like,
yeah,
from
we
sets you made?
absolutely. Yeah, because I've glued this, myself and our team have glued this type of rock together so frequently that you start to recognize pieces in it. We've molded other rocks, but this is a piece of Princess Bay rock. And yeah, it's just got so many multiple uses and it's beautiful.
Thank you so much for the craft day. This is, I mean, finding the way to make these things look right is so hard and so enjoyable. And I love the fact that all the tools you're using are just right out of a normal hardware store.
Absolutely. It means that anyone can give it a go, which is what we're always hoping people will.
Yeah, yeah.
No.
Save that styrene.
Yeah.
Lovely.